But let me back you up.
Okay,
Why
sorry.
did you decide to listen to me
Well,
in the first place?
Because you were just a pain in the rear.
I know that.
You were,
It took me, how many years?
yeah, it was a few years.
It was a few years,
yeah,
right,
just,
right.
You know, because
But
it was a
why?
relationship.
Okay.
And
so
okay.
for those volunteers who might be listening.
Okay. It was a
what
relationship,
encouragement
but
can we
it
give?
was you. It was you. It was your testimonial. You went. You
And
went
the fact
to a
that I
project.
had been to
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
projects and had
Yeah.
seen the program
When you
working.
came back from Bolivia, I mean, it was just like, okay, we got to do this.
Yeah.
We got to do this because with the pictures, and I remember you showing the girl and telling the story about her dad looking from afar, and then kind of like cautious, and just the realness that was happening from you. Yeah, you can't fake that.
Right.
You fake a lot of things, but you don't fake that. I just realized, wow, this is more than just, okay, let's sponsor a child and hope. I mean, when you talked about the difference between sponsored kids and unsponsored kids when you were standing there looking. But it was a relationship that I think that a volunteer has to develop. It can't be just sending out flyers to pastors or, hey, I'd like to meet with you, and he says no or she says no, and you go, okay, well, I won't try it. It's got to be a relationship.
It's got to be about the relationship. But how do we get that relationship? That is so difficult. And I've had countless stories.
They just have to know you're for them, that you're not just out to get something from
So
them.
in other words, that we're offering maybe a service, if you will,
Well, yeah,
to the
I mean,
church,
it's
to the ministry, the overall ministry or missions.
Yeah, they have to understand how it impacts the church in such a positive way. And that's why I'm hoping just my testimony will help others realize.
I'm sure it will.
We didn't know how it was going to go the first Compassion Sunday.
No.
I was
But you
I was
clearly
worried,
had a passion
but
for
I was
it.
worried. I was worried because I thought, well, is this going to translate? And man, we'll never forget.
Well,
the buzz,
Can you expand a little bit and tell me some of the benefits that you saw come out of that to the church generally and maybe even individually?
Well, as I shared earlier, I think there's the benefits of everybody can participate in this. It's $1 a day. It challenges people to think. So everybody gets to participate, which in our culture, it's the haves and the have-nots. It's they're important. Everybody can participate. We have teenagers, we have college students. We have a college student here, our college age, who sponsors 10 kids.
Right.
You have, so that's one thing. The other thing is your congregation begins to become aware that it's just not about them. They begin to think about how they spend their money, about how easy it is to go buy something at Starbucks, and how, I had a gentleman here talk about he was going to buy something that he didn't really need, but he wanted, and it was $500. And he says it was interesting because he sponsors a kid. He was thinking why he was going to buy that. You know how many months that is of sponsoring a kid? I could go sponsor another kid, and that would be, that would be over a year. And so it gets people rethinking about how blessed we are and how we really can solve poverty. It just raises the awareness, and any pastor, hopefully, would want their congregation, the teachings of it's not about us, to get their congregation thinking more outward and more. And Compassion does that, and it does it in such a practical, real way. You don't have to go, well, I hope this is happening. Kids are being changed. Kids are being, and that's the other thing when you sponsor. If you have sponsor Sundays, Compassion will help you find a kid who's grown up who went through the Compassion program and have them at your church, and people can see it, and people can go travel and see it.
That was very powerful when we had George Jowie from Uganda.
Yeah. So I just can't. Again, I'm addicted to it because it's a healthy foundation to any church.
Right. What do you like best if you had to identify one or two key things about Compassion? You certainly addressed several.
I like that it's locally church-based, meaning that the local church is the one that administers.
You mean in the host countries?
In the host countries.
Okay.
So, as churches, we should be wanting other churches to succeed because we believe that the church is the hope of the world. That's the place where people meet Jesus. It's a safe place. It's where we can let the light shine, and when these kids get connected to a local church, it strengthens the church. So I love that.
Yeah.
You hear stories about churches doubling and tripling in size because they're doing a Compassion project. I love it that it goes right. It's just so kid-based. It's just, and I love the holistic approach. Okay. The education, the physical, the social, the spiritual, definitely.
Right.
That's what I love about
it. On the other side of the coin, is there something that Compassion could do better? What would you like to see them improve? Well,
I don't have the answer of how, but you know my heart. I would love to see them get into churches more and have more, because I always thought, okay, our church, maybe we're an anomaly, 800 kids, but what if every church in America had 200 kids? That's huge, and that's nothing against people sponsoring at concerts and nothing against those things, but there's something about when you do a Sunday, Compassion Sunday, the education. I would think that people have a tendency to be committed to their kids longer in those situations because of the education and the reminder, and when you're doing a yearly event and celebration, there's more of that. So I don't know how they can do it better, but I would love to see Compassion get into churches more, and more than just there's a flyer on the wall if you're interested in sponsoring, but to actually do a full service where you do worship and then you do the whole education.
Much as we have done
like
here.
What we've done here.
And it was very powerful. I wasn't going to ask this directly, but I'm going to, because I know any pastors might want to watch this will be asking themselves the very same question. Did you notice a decline in overall giving after Compassion?
Absolutely not, no. In fact, probably the opposite. It was for some people their first time to stretch the giving muscle, so to speak, and they loved it, and it's like, no, I want to do more of this. It increased people's desire to go on shorter missions trips, because we are involved in Washington, D.C., we're involved in Mexico, not Compassion stuff, but it just raised the level of generosity overall.
So it kind of stimulated the missions muscles?
Oh, absolutely.
Overall?
Absolutely.
So I think we're about out of
okay,
time.
If we're
Anything
out of time,
to add?
Yeah, one more thing, and this may be a little side note, but this worked for us. It may not work for every church, but we picked a couple of places in the world to sponsor. You can sponsor a kid in 25 countries, but we picked Burkina Faso, Africa, and we picked Chiapas, Mexico. So what was kind of cool about that is you feel like, hey, I'm sponsoring a kid, Jim's sponsoring a kid, we're sponsoring kids in the same community. And so we're really helping impact some local churches there. So, it was kind of fun to say, hey, we all have kids from the same area. You don't have to do that, but it seemed to excite our congregation.
It was.
That we picked a specific spot, that we're going to impact that spot. Now, let's say another church, they're going to pick that spot, impact that area.
And there can be a number of programs or projects within that particular region.
Like Burkina Faso is a whole country. We just said we're going to focus on that
one. Exactly. And also Chiapas, Mexico.
Right. The power of the local church, especially in America, if churches can embrace this, it works. It works. It's a win-win, win-win. It's just win all across the board, and it's a little contagious too. When you do your first one Sunday, you're going to want to do more because of the buzz. It's one of my favorite weekends of the year around here. It's one of my favorite because of the joy, and it's so doable. But I guess if anything, my prayer, and I'll help any way I can, but just to get to educate about how effective it is, the Compassion program, and again, how doable it is. $32.